Welcome to Out of Our Mains Live.
Welcome to the Out of Our Mains podcast.
Oh yeah, we're good. We're good.
You know, this is a bigger turnout than I expected.
Yeah, 100%. Like
I should have bet over or under 5 people.
Yeah. Hey, we got over 5. That's pretty good.
All right.
What was that?
What's like riding on this thing? You said we were betting. What's riding on?
No, I said I should have bet, and I did not.
What would be riding if we were to bet? If we did bet?
I don't know. For a week.
YouTube channels.
I don't know. I think I should have bet like for a week. Maynard had to tell people, "Have you heard of Ambazar?" instead of Out of Our Mains. I would get so much mileage out of that advertisement.
Yeah.
This mic is working, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes,
Y'all can hear Robert fine, right? I know you're all like. So
right.
I know there's so many people in the way back.
Yeah, I know,
that are
right?
struggling
All
to
right.
hear.
Oh, it's a full room.
I think his name is water cooler.
Yeah. Look at that man.
Oh,
he
yeah.
got a nice fit. Yeah.
He's been in every panel for this Galleria today,
Yeah,
dude.
it's impressive.
Yeah, he's
But
got.
I could have
dedicated.
sworn
And
he's got a lot
I
of
watched
cousins
from.
too everywhere.
Oh yeah.
He must stay hydrated.
They must be on staff. That's all I can figure.
He's dedicated. I guess we're gonna actually start the panel. So welcome to the Out of Our Mains podcast panel. Thank you. It's technically called, the panel was submitted as Have You Heard of the Out of Our Mains podcast, but they thought that was too long. So they just put it as Out of Our Mains, which I think is why a lot of people aren't here because they don't know what Out of Our Mains is.
Hey, it could be worse. My Misty Bright Dawn appreciation panel got shortened to just Misty Bright Dawn, which I guess still gets the point across if you think about it.
But if it was Misty Appreciation, I feel like a lot more people would know what it was.
It also would have helped if they put it down at the right time in the book.
Yeah,
We still got like 30, 40 people there, so it ended up fine.
yeah, they said that deck building was at the same time, which it wasn't.
I'm amazed nobody showed up for the deck building tournament going like, what is going on here?
I was thinking about doing that, but then I was too distracted by making new friends and them wanting to do stuff, so I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's what this con is all about.
This is a great place to make new friends.
People are showing up here, so I think that says something to our panel.
Yeah,
Even though it's all
yeah, the amount of people that I've gotten to hang out with this panel has been, or this con. I guess I am hanging out with all of you. It's kind of like just a small group gathering, even though we're on stage.
Glorified hangout.
Yeah, let's go.
Also, Maynard, I don't know if you know this, but our most recent episode is now our most popular video.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Let's go! Big shout out to one of the apologists.
So, if any of you haven't heard of the Out of Our Mains podcast, it's a My Little Pony podcast that me, Robert, and Ambazar run. We upload a new episode every 2 weeks, usually on either Wednesday or Thursday. It's been Thursday recently. But Quantum Apologist, who's in the front stage here, was our most recent guest. And yeah, it was a ton of fun, and now it's our most viewed video. So
It was.
I do recognize it. Oh yeah, I recognize that
But
name.
it's not what I
yeah.
I just talked for 2 hours and a half and hoped that it worked out.
Yeah, it did apparently.
I mean, hey, that's fine now. You know,
Oh, you can see my DMs. Oh shoot, I need to go on DMs.
Okay, let's see.
Alright.
Yeah.
We just started meeting.
Who is this person?
Screen.
Oh, nice nose.
nostril.
Yeah.
Don't look at my
You don't-
homework folder.
You don't need to see this, Maynard. I'm sorry, Robert.
That's not.
Oh, it's not using the right camera again.
it's using the.
Oh, it's using the
camera.
laptop
Oh my
camera.
gosh.
I mean, I guess the laptop camera still
Hey,
works.
it works.
It works.
Screw it. I don't need it.
Okay, we are professional.
By the way, when Maynard says we all run the podcast, he's being way too modest. He does everything. He does the editing, like most of the advertising. Robert and I just show up.
Show up.
It's very efficient because I want to give, actually, since we're in front of a live audience, I want to give Maynard a hand because he does so much hard work for the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Like, he just tells us when we're recording and we're like, okay, we'll be there. And then that's like the most Robert and I
Okay,
do.
honey.
I don't know.
But yeah, so if mostly what this panel was going to be about originally was just us. So there's been a lot of Q&A panels at this convention. There always is. And that's kind of what we wanted to do here. We wanted to sort of do Q&A, but you look like you wanted to say something.
Oh no, I'm just.
You're looking deep into my soul, and
You're just a beautiful man.
yes, I know. The face. Yeah. So, so that is sort of what we're gonna do. But the thing is, at least me and Robert have really bad ADHD. Ambi enables us really hard, so we just kind of ramble for forever. So anything you guys want to talk about, we probably, well, actually, considering how little people there are in here, even if every single person had a question, we probably would get through it. But ask us a question, and if it's, if it's interesting enough to us, we'll probably talk about it for an unhealthy amount of time.
Oh yeah, you guys are going to be as big a part of this as we are because we have like no bullet points or plans for this. This is just
Yeah, this is very much
this is
improvisation.
shooting from the hip.
Unprompted.
Yeah.
All our guests of the podcast.
Yeah. So welcome on to the Out of Our Minds podcast.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of names to write down. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, hold on. We gotta.
Gear.
The description is just a line of text.
I'm actually going to get a selfie for this podcast.
It's just the
Hold on.
Star
Yeah.
Wars prologue, like dialogue. Scroll up.
Yeah, but
I don't know if I can get everybody. Everybody's so spread out.
Oh god.
Everybody
Yeah,
just move
alright.
to one side.
Yeah,
me
if I do the
selfie.
rear camera.
Like,
Yeah, I'm
search into.
not gonna be in this.
Yes, I am. Hold on.
Nice. All right. Send that in our group DM.
I need to get it.
So yeah, feel free to ask us anything. It can be something. It can be something extremely specific about the show, like any opinions on G4, G5, any thoughts that we have. Literally start with one question, and we will not shut up about it for forever. So
You can even ask about the bag of ham if you want.
What type of microphone is that?
this is a.
Sure, SM58, I think. Sorry.
What he said.
If you're right about
Are you
that,
sure about that?
I mean, it might be.
Does anyone have Google?
well, it has a sticker on it that says Anime Nebraska.
So this is the.
That's from anime.
Yeah, this is the legendary Anime Nebraska microphone. We
It's
had
a Shure PG58. Is that what you said?
No, I said SM58.
Okay, yeah,
We-
it's a Shure PG58.
So we had to travel all the way to Nebraska,
Wow.
and fight off anime villains to get these mics. So they're a very specific type of. They're very well-made, very well-fashioned. Yeah, I got nothing else. That was that did nothing. I'm so sorry.
Tell me more about these anime villains.
So okay, have you guys ever seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? So like these villains were like the Pillar Men,
God.
but they had what did they have, Andy?
Very large swords
But they had very large swords
made of paper mache.
made of paper mache, and we had to battle them with paper mache swords as well. This is going nowhere. And next question. What's that, Quantum?
Waffles or pancakes?
Okay,
Pancakes.
so Robert,
Yeah.
are we gonna have a little bit of an?
Well, okay, here's what you
I like both, but I like pancakes more.
okay. You take two pancakes, you put a waffle in between them, and you make a sandwich.
Okay, you can do that, but you're skirting around the issue here. Both of you said pancakes when that's clearly the wrong answer.
I'm so
Objectively
sorry.
wrong.
I'm so sorry. You've never met anybody that knows how to cook pancakes.
I know. I cook pancakes.
Okay,
I
here's the
make
thing
my
about
own
waffles, guys. Here's the thing about waffles compared to pancakes, right? Pancakes are just like a freaking frisbee, right? They're just a thing. They take up your entire dinner plate. They like you take waffles, right? You take pancakes. You pour syrup on them. You pour syrup on them. You try to spread it. It just gets soaked into the pancake before you can even spread it. It doesn't go anywhere. You have to dump so much syrup on this gosh dang pancake, on this gosh dang frisbee made of dough on your plate. With waffles, you pour the syrup and it naturally flows into all of the little crevices and you have perfectly even spread sweetness.
But I counter that. You know what a pancake is gonna taste like when it absorbs syrup? It's gonna taste like maple syrup.
Yes, but you have to spend so much time pouring that dang maple syrup, and it has to go off around the whole freaking thing. Sorry, I'm very passionate
It's
about
been
it.
so much time.
patience
How,
and impatience.
how comically small is the little hole in your bottle of maple syrup
Okay.
that you're having to spend the best years of your life applying syrup to your
Are you
pancakes?
talking? Okay, are we talking real maple syrup, or are we talking like Aunt Jemima, like the
Corn
like?
syrup stuff, yeah.
Yeah, are we talking about like the syrup that's in her pantry?
Syrup lady.
I see some guy in the back raising their hand.
And it's some random guy. Who's that? Yeah, that's you.
Is there a guest you'd like to have on the podcast that you haven't had yet?
Oh, that's an
We need to ask
interesting
Banquo if
question,
he wants to be on
Banquo
the
Zero.
podcast.
That's a very interesting question, Banquo Zero. We actually have a long line of people that we've wanted to have on the podcast that we want to have in the near future. Stay tuned, definitely. There's how many? I feel like I've sent a list at some point. I feel like there's been so many people, especially this convention, that I've talked to that I'm like, we need to get you on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I like to have a balance between regular episodes and episodes with a guest on them. I love doing the episodes with guests on them. I would love to be at a point where we've had so many people on and we can have someone that's been on the podcast on a second time, because there's been some people on that I think it would be a lot of fun to bring back.
Yeah. The end goal is to have Lauren Faust and Emma Larson at the same time.
Yeah, so in the end, yeah, that's what it's gonna turn out.
If we're lucky, Tara Strong.
If we're lucky, Tara Strong. If we're lucky, Quantum Apologist will grace us with his presence.
Well,
Yeah, we're gonna have all the main six.
Yeah, we already had Tara Strong on our podcast, Quantum Apologist. Yeah, you're actually Tara Strong.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we look exactly
I'll
the
just
same.
like.
They're like twins.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, adding on to what Ambi said, yeah, I think we are going to try and get the main six. I'm not talking about the actors.
No.
I'm not talking about the
Just
actors.
people
They're
being
going to be
like-
there.
Yeah.
They're going to be there. No, here's the actual thing. We've already had Quantum on, and he uses Twilight to represent himself. We just need to find five other YouTubers.
Who uses Applejack as
Does
an OC
anyone
for their
use
videos?
Applejack?
Who here kins? No.
Okay.
I volunteer as trivia Spike if I have to.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Wait, we said main six. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
That's why I said
There we go.
Don't diss on my boy Spice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Cole?
Do you see yourself like ever becoming to a point where you're gonna have a guest every episode and that's just what you do now?
So,
What are we, the Joe Rogan podcast?
that's actually a really good question. I've been deliberating that for a good time, and it's something that we'd have to talk about.
I think the setup right now is we're doing like one episode with just us and then another episode with the guest. But I'd say that's really up to Maynard. He makes most of those decisions. We just roll with it.
So the big reason. Oh, I'll let Robert speak.
Well, I mean, like you say that, but like before we got you on, before we did episode 16, we had not only Single Hope, but then we had Brony Tales episode that you did. I couldn't do it because I had Leonard Jackson at the time, but so we had 2 guest episodes in a row. So
Yeah.
I guess it's frequent. I guess it's kind of like it depends on how we feel. I don't know.
Yeah. So I would love to do a thing. I would love to do a thing that it is a guest every episode. The thing is, though, the editing of this podcast is, it takes a long time. This last episode, I probably spent about 20 hours on editing. Now, to be fair,
If you've seen how the episodes have been turning out, you know it's gonna take a while.
to be fair, I did screw up on one of the audio fronts, and by the time I was like well into editing the video, by the time I realized I was already well into editing the video, and there wasn't really any good way for me to go back and do that. But the point is, everyone records their audio individually, and there are a lot of times where, and it's not anyone's fault specifically.
That's why mine sounds bad.
I purposefully make Ambi's sound bad because I know. Here's the thing: I know that 90% of the people coming to the podcast are here for him. So I need to
That's a bold assumption to make.
I need to tone him down a little bit. I need to tone him down a little bit to stroke my ego, okay?
Since not one person on your first guest appearance said that they only came there for you, that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
I actually think that was Reminiscent Violet, if I'm not mistaken.
No, there was someone else. I'm not going to name drop them.
Okay.
I think it was someone who wasn't exceptionally good.
Okay, I'm gonna think about that every time I'm feeling down on myself.
And be like, they came here for me?
Like, literally, I can like show you it, like...
No. We don't want to dox this person. We don't want to expose this person.
I DM to Amber.
Okay, okay.
Is it rude to answer my phone, but I'm live on a panel?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I don't care. So.
Too bad.
Message your mom, make sure it's on speaker.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys came here instead of Prince and his gang. You're gonna regret it. You're gonna regret it.
know that.
Don't
tell people what's going on.
His name literally has whatever in its side.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, should we tell these people Prince is on right now? It's like, do we risk that?
Prince is on?
Yeah. No, we love Prince, and honestly, if we were at this convention and we were not doing this panel, we'd be over there. But please stay. Please stay. We love you guys.
All right, I'm sold. See you guys.
We need the Patreon money, guys. We need the Patreon money. Please subscribe.
We don't have a Patreon. I'm joking. Yeah. So.
Right now, turn on the notification bell.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I saw the it was so sad. I saw the engineer from Team Fortress 2. He walked through the door, he looked at both of us, shook his head, and just walked. And I'm just like, aw. And I know Maynard's on because he just stopped talking for 2 seconds and he's like, okay anyway.
Yeah. I'm like, I love Del Conagear, but he doesn't love me. No. But yeah, to tie that up with the little bow, I guess, yes, we would love to have people on the podcast more often. Is it going to happen? We will do our best.
Maynard can only edit so much.
We are almost at 200 subs, okay? It might happen.
Let's go.
We're like, we're kind of like super high up there. Like, we're gonna.
Right now.
Yeah, obviously. What was I gonna say? I love ADHD.
By the way, I know somebody was like jokingly suggesting it, but I could like 100% actually call my mom like live up here. I think it'd be fun.
Why would you do that?
Andy Mom cameo from the Out of Our Mains podcast.
Out of
Our Mom's podcast. Let's go.
Out of Our Mom's podcast.
Should we try to vote? Maybe.
Were you raising your hand for a question?
Yes, kind of. So, if 7 out of like 10 or so people here subscribe, if they're not already subscribed, you will reach 200 subscribers.
Yes.
200 subscribers.
We got 7. So if you are not subscribed to the Out of Our Mains podcast, please do.
Guys, just so you know, if you subscribe to the Out of Our Mains podcast, right now, you might win $1 million.
Oh my.
There's like a 0.00001%.
No, you might. You might.
And there
I'm not saying that I'm going to provide it. I'm just saying it might happen.
Is Mr. Beast under this table?
Anybody who subscribes to the Out of Our Mains podcast, I will pay each of you $80 within the next 300 years.
And listen,
Considering we know a lot of people in here, that'll actually probably happen.
there's also a chance, hear me out, a chance that after this panel ends, Maynard will personally pay for your flight back home.
I fly free on standby.
There's a chance.
We can easily pay for yours.
We didn't say it was a non-zero one.
I'm only a few towns away.
Alright, see right here? There.
Oh,
There we go. Live subscription.
I'm gonna check. What's
This
it
panel has devolved into us begging for this.
That's all YouTube is.
It really does.
Oh, you know what?
We're shameless.
I'm not subbed on my second channel.
Yo!
Hold on.
All right. This is
keep making channels, everybody, and
the Out of Our
subscribe to
Main
them.
subscriber fundraiser. Can I get 3? Going for 3? 3? Going for 3? No.
4, 5, 5,
Yeah. Yeah, but did anyone else have any questions?
Okay. Oh, we got Lyrivan up here.
Yep.
What do you think one of the biggest issues you've had trying to run the podcast has been so far?
Probably, I think the biggest issue was one of them being trying to figure out what to turn the podcast into. Because initially you came to me and this is how it happened.
Oh yeah, you're gonna tell this story. Okay.
I'm going to tell the story. So
Yep, go for it.
Came to me and said, "Hey, would it be cool if we did a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, what do you got in mind?" He mentioned news, and then he also. This is something no one really else. Fan fiction reading was on the table for a bit.
Yeah. Yep. The deep out of our maid's lore.
Yeah, there was fan fiction reading, and I was like, yeah, maybe. So we started off with this podcast, and I think the hardest part in the early days, especially, was finding stuff to talk about.
Yes. So originally we wanted to do a news podcast because, well, originally we wanted to do the freaking fanfic reading. That did not go well. Somewhere there is a an hour-long recording of us starting to read through something with terrible voice acting. It's great.
Somewhere. It's probably on your drive somewhere.
Yeah, it probably is stored somewhere. But when we started the podcast, we went into it with the idea that we wanted to be a news podcast with the new generation starting at the time. The movie had just come out when we started, so this was November of 21?
I think so. Our first episode came out in October 26th.
Okay, yeah.
October 26th, 2021.
October 21. So we were very hopeful for this new generation of My Little Pony, and we figured...
And then Make Your Mark Chapter 1 came out.
So we figured that there were going to be a huge mass of new people, new blood joining the fandom, and I think to an extent that did happen, but for different reasons. I feel like it's less been new blood joining the fandom, and more so a lot more people starting to do content creation, which has actually been really good for all of us in the content creation scene, because everyone is looking for someone to collaborate with. It's awesome. It's great. And in doing that, it's been reaching out to people to come onto the podcast has been, I don't want to jinx it, but we haven't been turned down yet, so.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to tell that at a time. I don't know if I'm going to tell this at a time because that might be a little bit sensitive information because I can't promise anything. But yeah, it has, I remember as soon as I got, when Maynard reached out to me, I was a special guest on one of the episodes of the podcast. And it went pretty well. I enjoyed it. And it was, what was it, a month, 2 months after that?
It was, so the collab was 5 months ago, which, it's almost been half a year.
It's only been that long? Wow.
Yeah, it's only been half a year, almost half a year. And
yeah,
then
I think
it was a little bit after.
No, we reached out before Everfree Northwest. The reason I remember that.
Yeah, first you talked to me about it.
So the reason I remember it was before Everfree Northwest is I remember Ambi, I remember watching your vlog and seeing you ask a question along the lines of, hey, what do you guys think is a good idea for good equipment for a podcast? Because I've had people ask me to be on a podcast.
Actually, I hate to break it to you, that wasn't you. That was other non-Brony friends that wanted to just start a standard non-Pony podcast.
You know that part of that, I forget what episode it is, but where it does the X-ray of Twilight's heart and it just shatters?
Well, the thing was, you asked me, and I left you hanging for a month because I just didn't know. But finally, I'm just why not? Because I enjoyed it.
This guy thinks I'm a loser.
But when my friends who were pitching that idea to me months before you asked me, when they figured out I said yes to you, they were so upset.
Really?
Yes, and they were just how could you do that?
You made the wrong choice, brother.
Yeah, I know, and I'm just you can still listen to that podcast. They're like, no. It's we will never.
Yeah. No,
out of spite.
You are now paying the price. You are up here instead of in that Coachella room.
You heard the part where this was oh no, never mind. What was I thinking? I thought you somehow
weren't.
meant like Prince whatever or something asked me to start a podcast. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
that's not. I thought you meant like on stage at Coachella, and I'm like bold of you to assume I have that much pull or
Dude.
talent.
I mean, hey, you are the Amazon.
He's the Amazar.
I am the Amazon.
Community guest.
Yeah, that's why I had to wait 2.5 hours in line for a community guest badge.
Oh my gosh. If you guys don't know,
HarmonyCon.
pre-registration was awful if you guys weren't there. We literally, me and Reminiscent Violet were standing in line, and our line was huge. We stood in line for about 2 hours. Ambi got into the special line for the community guests, the donors, that sort of thing. And the line was like less than half the size. We beat him to get our registration.
Wow.
There were a few
man.
difficulties, but
Yeah.
I mean, we all got through eventually, so it worked out.
What's a convention without printer failures?
It's not a pony convention without technical difficulties.
Yep,
I've
that's
said
just,
that 1,000 times.
Yep.
that's just how it is. So,
We got any more questions? Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and give you the same question that I did with the community guests a while ago. What was your first memory, aka the point where you gained consciousness and sentience?
it's interesting because when you asked that, because I was there at the community guest thing, Ambi was on stage.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not as important as him though. So I was actually thinking about this because this has actually been something I've thought about a lot recently. There's a few, like, my first memory, it's kind of heartwarming, but it's kind of boring too compared to other people's. Like Jojo was talking about like getting on an elevator and saying "Bye, mommy."
He was lost in a mall.
But no, literally my first memory, and it's kind of like it's kind of sappy. But I remember like waking up and walking through like the apartment that I lived in with my dad at the time, and seeing him. He had like super long hair at the time, and he just smiled at me. And that's all I remember.
Aww.
So, yeah.
It's so heartwarming.
All right. What about you, Robert? What's your first memory that you remember from as a child when you like gained consciousness? Do you know?
Saying the F word on the Out of Our Mains podcast.
Yeah, but if you don't know, I didn't have consciousness until I started the Out of Our Mains podcast with Nate.
You weren't real. You're just like an astral projection.
He wasn't even a human. He was a concept.
That's the actual reason he's not here. He's an advanced AI tool I created because I didn't have any friends to start the podcast with.
I can't think of anything on top of my head. I was thinking about something else that was kind of related to the podcast. Maynard, do you remember, my computer was having some issues and you were taking care of the thumbnails, and you thought it would be funny to have the number on the left side slowly increment up as you made the thumbnails?
Yeah, so when we started the podcast, right, I was we were making like it was the most copy paste like thumbnail. Like I understand why the podcast did not take off until recently. It was the same like blurred Ponyville background that we still use today, but it was commissions of me and Robert's Sona's just there, and it had like Out of Our Mains text in like it had like the Out of Our Mains text in the equestrian font and like a number in the lower left corner. And I noticed that if you had clicked on the video once, YouTube, you guys know how YouTube does that thing where it shows how far you got into a video? It covered that up. So I started, so the next episode, I raised it by a little bit, and then I saw that it was still too low. So the next episode, I raised it a little bit more, and it was at about the right height. But I was like, we can go further. So I kept raising it for the next few episodes.
That was funny. He was laughing to himself.
This is how sad it is, right? I think about all these like all these stupid little things that I do, and I'm like, they make me happy. Nobody's gonna notice this. Nobody's gonna notice this in a million years. But they're just gonna think it was like some stupid error because we're like complete noobs to this thing, right? Like we did no research into how to start like a podcast or YouTube channel.
So now if you look at those thumbnails, you'll know why it's going up slightly.
Yeah, you'll see in increments that it gets higher and higher until you get to like episode 12. I think our April Fool's episode was the last one I did it, and I did it way higher because it was the April Fool's episode. But
That was such a great episode. I remember when you made the joke cover for it. It was like It was like 2 in the morning, right?
oh my gosh, this is how much of losers me and Robert are. So
I wasn't here for any of this, so I feel like I'm listening to the podcast instead of being on it. Like I'm just hearing these stories that were around.
So yeah, Anthony, buckle up. Get back in the audience. No, we need you here. People will leave if you're not here. So we were like, it was late at night, and me and Robert were just talking about what to do for our April Fool's episode. We had a few ideas. We talked about possibly like acting like we were a completely different podcast and just like not mentioning anything. We knew we wanted to gaslight people because it was entertaining to us. So what we ended up doing instead is we came up with fake cast lists for a live action Generation 4 retelling and said that G5 was canceled. But at like 2 in the morning, we were just in a call. I had like a PaintNet open, and I was just drawing.
No, nothing in PaintNet. You had MS Paint open.
Oh yeah, it was MS Paint. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the crappiest thing that I can possibly do, which, to be fair, isn't much worse than my current artistic skill, which is less than 0.
I wasn't there to see the process, but I have seen the results.
You've seen the picture. So I'm just realizing that we didn't make like an announcement on Twitter we were gonna be here.
I did, like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I just realized.
Or 5 minutes before we started.
But, like,
Yeah, well,
we were like laughing so hard.
So my head was about 3 times the size of Robert in his entirety. We had potatoes on stands as microphones, and I drew like a really crappy like hill background mimicking the thing that we have in the back of our videos.
And also the tree.
Yes, so I drew a tree. Wait, can I? So I drew a tree, and then I selected the tree, and I copy pasted it on top of my head. So it wasn't like the tree was sitting atop my head. It was like I was someone just messing around with artistic programs for the first time, and I tried to copy and paste something and have it be behind me, but it wasn't like there was no layering. This was honestly the amount of humor that's in this image. It really takes a very high IQ to understand.
I wonder if we could show the image by sending DMs.
We could, but I'd prefer not to right now.
And also,
we might lose the people we already have.
and to answer your question, I know you already heard it, but when I first gained consciousness, my older brother, we get along great now, but for some reason when I was really young, he was very mean to me. Like when I was 3 and he was like 4 or 5, my first conscious memory is I was sitting in the living room of my old house, and he, like completely unprovoked and for no reason, got a glass of water, walked over to me, and just dumped it on me.
Wow.
That's the first conscious memory. That's the first conscious thing I remember.
I actually have a pretty funny story. It's not first conscious memory, but it's one that so I have 4 different siblings. So my oldest younger sibling, at the time I was probably like, I want to say I was about 11 or like 10 or 11, and they were like 5 or 6. So I was in the living room at my mom's house, and I was playing the Wii. I was playing Super Paper Mario on the Wii. I remember this very vividly. I was playing Super Paper Mario, and my little sibling comes out of their room and comes up to me, and they're like, "Maynard, I have to tell you something." I'm like, "It's free reels." I'm like, "What's up?" And she comes up, and her lips are like touching my ear because she's like a little kid. And they're like, "I drew makeup on the wall." I was like, what? And they're like, they thought I just didn't hear them. I drew makeup on the wall. So, yeah, they had taken like lipstick and smeared it on the bedroom wall. They had to take like a rag and clean it up, but it was just the way that they told me just like haunts me to this day.
That's making me think
That
of.
makes me so
That sounds
uncomfortable.
like something you can hear before you get kidnapped.
That's making me think of this. It's like a viral video. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's like this lady. She's talking to like her boyfriend or husband or something, and she just woke up from surgery or something, so she is sky high on drugs, and she's looking at her husband. It's like, hey, I just super decked my pants. And then he's like, what? And she's like, you should have doodled. And I don't know, it made me think of it.
Welcome to Out of Our Mains, where we're out of our mains, and you probably are too.
I wish I could stop laughing so I could have told that more effectively.
Yeah.
But I'm like struggling over here.
I think it helps.
Yeah. But
I love this My Little Pony related conversation.
I know, it's great.
can you guys ask us something related to MLP so we can talk about what people are actually here for at this convention
gosh,
for?
We're here to talk about ponies.
You two both are raising your hands, so fight to the death. No, we'll go left.
We'll get you
right,
two, sir.
Yeah. We'll get you. We'll go. Yeah. There.
Who is best pony?
So actually, funnily enough, so are we talking overall, or are we talking G4?
G4 Celestia and G5 Misty.
Wait, I thought Starlight was.
Starlight's up there.
Oh no.
So
Okay, you both are wrong. It's Fluttershy. Okay?
So I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you guys know this, Robert. I'm holding up my lanyard. So I don't know if you guys could guess what my favorite pony is, but it's Applejack.
He's a big Applejack.
Your favorite pony is Wolf Biceps.
Yeah. No, that's not my favorite pony, but that is my waifu. So. But yeah, we all have differing opinions when it comes to G4. G5, we have slightly different. Actually, at first, me and Robert both said Hitch because of the movie. Movie Hitch was great. The comics Hitch was pretty good. I liked Hitch in the podcast. But if you guys haven't heard of the My Little Pony podcast, I know I'm plugging a different podcast on my podcast channel.
It is amazing and it's lore.
It's really cute. It's not anything huge, but it is very it's very wholesome. It's very cute. It has it overplays some character tropes a little bit, but other than a little bit of that, the characters feel the most real in that. Us in Quantum were talking about that the other day, but personally, my favorite now has been so my favorite of the main 5. It's probably Tip.
Good choice.
I think I might be leaning that way too. In the movie, it was Izzy, and it was not close.
In the movie, yeah, it was Hitch easily. Izzy was close second. Well, it was between Sunny and Izzy for second. But I think I'm a little biased in terms of Sunny because I've played the G5 game so much, and I've Gonna Be My Day is my favorite song from that movie. But in terms of overall characters from G5, I can't even decide between. I like Jazz Hoops a lot. Jazz is amazing.
I've heard that I really need to listen to the episode of the MLP podcast where it's Pip and Jazz, because I hear people that have listened to that, Jazz shoots way up.
The whole podcast is Pip and Jazz.
Oh, really?
They're the two that run it.
Pip is the host, Jazz is the co-host /
Yeah, it's like Maynard and Robert. It's just as iconic.
Can you tell that I haven't listened to it?
Yeah, go listen to the My Little Pony podcast if you haven't. After you've binged the entirety of the Out of Our Mains podcast.
Just have to subscribe to another channel, I guess.
Just okay,
We've
guys.
already promoted our channel. Let's promote another one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, so.
You're at 198.
Oh yeah. But we wanted to move on. We're gonna get him, and then you're next. So yeah, what was your question, Cole?
Oh, I forgot.
Okay, we'll come back to you. What was your question in the back?
How long do you think we can keep going as a fandom before we crash and burn? Or do you think we're just gonna Malaysia?
We died when Twilight got her wings. Next. I joke. You look at
people have been calling this fandom dead for years now, and we're still doing stuff like that.
I think we've died at least 5 or 6 times, maybe.
Just like Joey
We're just
Yeah. If
as long as Joey-O is alive, I really don't want to jinx it. Oh my gosh. As long as Joey-O is alive, this fandom is still going.
It's like that scene from, I don't know if people have seen Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs. It's like that scene where it's like, did you die? Sadly, yes, but I
live.
Yes.
Realistically, like approaching that question realistically, I do think that unless something crazy happens, who knows how long G5 is going to go on, and I'm sure knowing Hasbro will probably get a G6 or something afterwards. But My Little Pony, I think My Little Pony and its following is something that's just really not going to die. It's really more of a question, just like how much our numbers are going to dwindle, and and there's no telling how much longer we're going to have. We could still be having conventions like this a decade from now. Because, I guarantee a lot of people in like 2015, 2016 didn't think there'd still be, conventions like this with 1,000+ people. And if I had to guess, I'd say HarmonyCon this year has broken 1,000.
It feels like
because there is no parking anywhere around this hotel.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But I did get a room in this hotel.
It feels like so many more people came this year than last year, which is crazy because the con kind of opted to go for a lot more like smaller content creators for like community guests and such, and they like me. Yeah, they focused a lot on that, and they got a lot of really good musicians out here. They didn't bring in like a lot of the big names that conventions are usually looking for, like AC Race Fest, Saber Spark, who else? Yeah, exactly, right. But like several big names that are like usually at the conventions that do the best. Like, how many of them are here? There's not many like people who've been big parts of the community for a while. There's been a lot of new up and coming creators, and I feel like that honestly it might have worked out.
Yeah, it's
pretty
cool,
well
because it makes you hope maybe some other. Now, I'm not saying stop booking like the Bronies React group and so forth. No, those guys are awesome and they're always a joy to have at these conventions.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that maybe some of these other conventions will look at that and go, maybe these people would think, oh, maybe they're not quite big enough. Maybe give them a shot, because there are a lot of people who I think deserve the opportunity. And I'm not even necessarily saying I'm one of them. I think I got very lucky being able to do this year. But I'm really hoping that give some of the smaller guys a shot, because some of them really deserve it.
So what I think about that, because I've been thinking about this a lot in terms of like. Not just in terms of conventions, but in terms of like growth on YouTube as well. So I just want to say this right off the bat. I love DJ Ted. He's a great guy. He was the first guest that we had on our podcast.
Yeah.
He is a very big name. If any of you don't know who he is, I'm surprised. But he was the first guest on our podcast. That is one of our least viewed episodes.
Well, it's one of our least viewed guest episodes.
Yeah, it probably is our least viewed guest episode. Period.
Yeah, because our least viewed episode.
I can break that.
Well, we don't have to talk. We don't have to talk about our least viewed episode. But
it was episode 11.
Okay, so go watch that episode. Give us some analytics. Bump our numbers up. No, but the reason I think that is that the smaller growing creators are bringing in a lot more attention in the fandom is partly because they're collaborating with a lot more smaller people, and so there's a sense of I'm not saying that anyone who's bigger is less genuine than anyone, but from a viewer standpoint, there is a certain genuineness you get, and also I feel like the newer creators, because a lot of them don't have nearly as much of a backlog as other people. People are hungry for more from them. People like watching Ambazar's videos. People like watching Quantum's videos. People like, it's, I think what
Thanks,
it is...
person from the other room.
Thank you, yeah. But I think it's just that the smaller communities, while they're a lot smaller fan bases than some of these bigger creators, they're also a lot more like committed and passionate. Yeah, and I think that's, I don't know.
I'm fighting with the mic, saying it's okay. Just keep going.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of why a lot of smaller creators are gaining a lot of traction right now. I don't know if, like, you guys have noticed, but like, if there's a huge like renaissance of brony YouTubers right now. I think we all had the same idea of, oh, G5 is starting, I'm gonna jump into it, and then we end up just talking about G4.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like, I'm sure you or Robert was gonna talk about this if I didn't. When it comes to like video topics from a lot of newer YouTubers, it feels like when there's new G5 episodes coming out, and like Make Your Mark especially, people search up a lot of videos of those. But then as soon as like time passes, G4 videos are once again the big thing.
Yeah. There's oh yeah, go Robert.
No surprise, G4 had a huge impact on fandom.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's been talking about the toy sales with Hasbro lately, but
it makes me wonder if as far as like falling toy sales are concerned, if like maybe G5 being exclusively on Netflix and YouTube and not on like cable television or satellite or broadcast has something to do with that.
I think part of it is the amount of time that's given to the people that make G5 is about, so they're released in a different schedule, but I feel like the amount of content that they're producing is about the same as the amount of, like, per year, the amount of content they're producing is about the same as G4 was, maybe a little bit less, but it's also a 3D show, and they're giving it about the same budget, like the same budget, you know, taking into economy and all that boring stuff. But it's
easier to notice when a corner is cut in 3D than 2D.
Yeah, I don't want to turn this into a bashing on G5 panel. Yeah, there are aspects of G5 that I've really liked. But yeah, we've been talking for a while. That's just how we do. You had a question back there?
More of a comment. Have you looked back at like Jimmy Neutron and the early 3D cartoons that we watched?
Yes.
And have you compared that to G5 and how we have gotten better, but it's, it's the budget that we all collectively know is what's keeping it down.
So yeah, that's actually kind of funny that you bring up Jimmy Neutron specifically. I recently watched a video on like basically a retrospective on Jimmy Neutron, and looking back at it,
there's so many more animation mistakes than I would have remembered. I mean, it's still it's not ugly to look at by any means.
Are we talking about
most of the time?
Are we talking about
Jordan French,
G5, or are we talking about
Jimmy Neutron?
Okay. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of G5 has just kind of had a troubled development cycle, I feel like, and it's not like there's been a lot of I love the fact that they're letting a lot of new people onto the scene. Like I'm fairly certain that a good portion of the animators, the voice talent, the script writers and such, like there's a few people that have carried over from G4, like Jillian Barrow, I believe, worked on the movie and Chapter 1, but a majority are like junior animators and writers and such, and that's awesome. I love that they're giving them like new opportunities, but when you have new people that are just blossoming and you're giving them such a restricted budget, like you're kind of cutting two corners there. Like you're kind of burning the candle at two ends.
Although I will say one thing that's very much impressed me is how much improvement we've seen in the animation as G5 Make Your Mark.
That is very much fact.
Like if you compare chapter 3 and like the Winter Wish Day special to chapter 1, it is night and day.
chapter 1, their flying didn't have a lot of weight to it when it fell.
Yeah, there were some weird animation hiccups in chapter 1, but it feels a lot smoother now. It's still not perfect or anything, but yeah, there's a lot of improvements that they've made. So I'm hoping that things get better, but at the same time, even if G5 doesn't get much better, I think there are people that are going to continue to enjoy it, and that's awesome. I love that there are a lot of people that are enjoying G5.
There's definitely positive things to it. To say it's all bad is ridiculous.
No, it is not all bad. I mean, we have Jazz Hoops. Like, what more can you ask for? We have Misty. Like,
the only real complaints we have are, okay, you are teasing us with lore. Explain, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that's been a big part of it. But regardless of the standing power that G5 has, I think going back to is the fandom dying question, I think G4 has built up enough of a fan base to keep us going, and who knows, maybe once Generation 6 comes around, it will be something that is unanimously loved. Like, we don't know. There are other shows like there are other shows that Hasbro's done, like Transformers, that has had many different generations. That some of them people think are like less than stellar. Some of them people think are like some of the best shows. There's like shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's tons of shows that are based on toy lines that have generations that don't do as well as others.
And Chapter 4 of Make Your Mark might be amazing. I mean, there's definitely a lot of potential for things that could happen.
We don't know anything about Chapter 4 yet, do we?
I keep hearing people talk about potential teases and stuff that might come out, but I haven't heard anything.
I've heard one detail.
It's mostly like hearsay and rumors and a toy that was leaked that showed off a particular pony's cutie mark that we were not supposed to know. But toy lines spoiling things aside, that's just kind of a constant.
So how is there any difference between the many spoilers we got for G4?
Oh no, it's not any different.
Not the actual leaks, not the actual full.
Oh yeah, no, I was saying that, the toy, it's not any different than we got before with G4. Like, there were times that toy lines spoiled things very heavily. But yeah, I'm hoping that things improve. But if they don't, I think we're going to stick around until the next generation.
Yeah, it takes me back to that quote. I can't remember what BronyCon it was. I think it was the first one. But it was Ashley Ball was asked a similar question, like, this was in the fandom's infancy, basically. And they're asked, they asked her how big, you see how big the fandom's gotten, how long do you think it's going to last? And she's like, there will always be bronies. And I think that's true. Even if the fandom continues to shrink, I like how Little Shy himself said, even when, if the fandom dwindles to the point where we can't have these huge conventions, there's still going to be meetups. There's still going to be stuff posted online.
There's still going to be people meeting, like hanging out on Discord, and
there will still be shows made about My Little Pony.
Yeah, there's still going to be horses. There's always going to be horses. That's one of the constants.
Do you think by the time, we're going to be like 80 and still doing Out of Our Means?
Hey guys, welcome to the Out of Our Means podcast.
I have been on another show for 10 years now.
Still going to pony conventions, still doing the podcast.
I hope we keep consistently growing. By the time we're 80 and doing this, I want to be like, welcome to the Out of Our Means podcast. Here's our guest, the current president of the United States.
So speaking about the fandom dying, this is, I don't want to start any riots to get me off the stage. No, I don't think the fandom's dying, but I have thought about this. So here's the thing, with the name that we've given the podcast, right? If MLB ever dies out, right? The name of the podcast is Out of Our Mains. We can just join the furry fandom and get Lion OC.
We are already a part of it.
That's debatable. That's actually something I want to do a podcast episode about in the future.
That's actually something I've been considering doing a video in the relatively near future, and it's basically diving into, are bronies technically furries?
I think it's a really interesting topic.
Yes.
That there's a lot of good points on both sides.
All my non-brony friends call me a furry, so
if that's what decides what you are, then
If the definition of a furry is to have an animal persona,
Yeah, but anthropomorphic.
So
Cheers into
Ponies
it.
are
So-
technically
okay.
anthropomorphic.
Okay, so we're gonna get into this.
2 legs.
Okay, no. Anthropomorphic means human-like.
Okay.
So expressing human-like qualities, so like emotions. So MLP characters are technically like anthropomorphic animals.
Can I put it in a very simple way?
Yeah.
I would not go to a furry convention.
Yes. That's where I'm at. So the way that I look at it, right? So if you look up online, like, what is a furry? It is technically.
You're gonna get weird pictures.
Well, yeah, you're gonna get weird pictures, but if you have safe search on, you're still gonna get weird
You
pictures.
have no room to talk about weird pictures.
Yeah, we're calling you out, buddy. You're front stage. We love Quantum. But if you look up what is a furry, technically the definition of a furry is someone who is a fan of anthropomorphic characters. Now, looking at
not
that,
a fan of showers.
So
I'm sorry, that was a low blow.
That's the Brody thing.
I know, says the Brody.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been taking shots at each other.
What is a furry now if I wanted to?
So, but if you think about that, right? You look at that and you're like, oh, so yeah, My Little Pony is anthropomorphic characters, so fans of that are furries, right? What about Mickey Mouse?
Yes.
What about Looney Tunes?
Yes.
Are people who enjoy those shows or have enjoyed those shows, are they also furries? Does that mean that 99% of the population that grew up in a first world country are furries?
Yes.
So if you say that, then what is the point of there being a term for that? Why don't you just say people who grew up in the first world countries?
Because we like to divide people into stuff we do not understand.
Okay, but we're not dividing anything at that.
It's not as funny because not everybody jumps off the deep
I'm
end.
trying to know what the mic's I'm just gonna hold that mic.
Yeah, that's fair. But anyways, it's a topic that I've thought a lot about, and it's one.
Probably talk on the podcast about.
I want to talk about it on the podcast at some point, but we've only got 4 minutes. But there's a raised hand.
Would the Egyptians who worshipped
Yes, they were furries. The Egyptians were furries. I agree with that.
Deviant art went let me tell you.
Yes, the ancient Egyptians were furries. What's up, Cole?
I'm sorry, this is why I was laughing.
I respect that guy vibing in the back. I respect that.
Yeah.
Let's go. This is like one of my favorite stupid questions, but like, is SpongeBob a furry?
He is.
Wait, hold on. Our plants.
Well, he's not a plant, he's a sponge.
Yeah.
Well,
He's not an animal.
Sponge is a.
But he's an animal.
it is technically an animal, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a different file.
I don't like that
SpongeBob
question.
fans are furries. Thank you for coming to the Out of Our Mains panel. We have officially deduced that SpongeBob fans are furries.
Contacts?
Yeah.
Salt the code.
Yeah. So yeah, we're probably gonna wrap this up here. We've got just a few more minutes. We'll do that in a second. If there's any other questions, we'll take a couple of rapid fire ones. If there's not, we'll just go ahead and shamelessly plug our podcast until the end of time. Back there.
Best pony.
We already answered that, but basically G4, Starlight Celestia, and Robert, what was yours? Fluttershy. And then G5, Jazz Hooves,
Misty,
and
Okay.
okay, yeah.
No, it's kind of easy.
Are PMVs friends of yours?
PMVs are friends of ours.
PMVs are friends of ours.
PMVs are friends of mine.
Especially yours, because you put like 3 years into each.
We love you, Cole.
You're making me blush.
Yes, sir.
Stop it.
Yeah. We love you, Robert. Go ahead.
Which Gen 4 pony would you kill?
Spike's dad.
Not a pony, but I respect it.
Yes.
Oh God.
I think it's Sludge.
You have to kill
Sludge. Yeah.
to save the Lord of the question.
The thing is, like, most of the villains I at least respect. Which one I would kill? Rem's not here, right?
No, don't say what I think you're about.
Wait, what?
Don't say the best main 5 or main 6 member. He's gonna say Cozy Glow. Oh, okay. Okay.
Strangle a child?
That is not a child. That is a demon.
Okay, we don't have time to get into this, but I don't think that Cozy Glow is actually a child. I think that she is an Eldritch Abomination. I love her character.
We hit 200 subscribers!
Thank you guys for coming out to the Out of Our Mains podcast panel. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. We have a Twitter at Out of Our Mains. If you want to talk about the panel,
Should they send a picture of something to our Twitter?
send a picture of you with someone you met at the convention to us on Twitter. Use the hashtag MaidenPod if you're going to do that. I am at the Mr. Summon on Twitter.
I am at AmbazarYT.
And I'm at RobertPlay00.
And thanks for coming to our panel. We appreciate it.
And hey, if you like funny live action stuff, maybe check out my channel Ambazar on YouTube too.
Yeah, go check that out.
And I don't have any content yet because I'm still working on that video, but it'll come out at some point.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for coming. This was amazing.
Smile, everybody.
You've been a great audience. Also, nice blood check watching.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much.
Yes.